Hello, everyone. Welcome to Spirituality Live with
Rhian
and Greg
Woo! And whomever else. But
and whomever.
Today there's no whomever else except perhaps a cat or two might show up as we record from my dining room.
So this is our first show. So we're gonna get together apparently the first and third Tuesday of each month at 11 a.m. to bring you a show. And sometimes it'll just be us, but we're also going to bring in a lot of other guests, including
Greg
animals.
specifically was like, please don't have your cats available for this experience. So now I sprayed her with Florida water, so she's fine. She'll go. She's my spiritual cat, though, Greg. She's my nurse cat. She has had a near-death experience, actually. She would be a good guest to interview on our show here, actually.
Very cool. Very cool.
She did. She was forever changed, actually, after her near-death experience.
I hear most people are. Actually, that's one of the topics we're gonna take on is near-death experiences. So we know a lot of people. So we're gonna be bringing on a lot of cool guests. If there's anyone locally that you know of that you want us to bring on the show, or if you want to be on the show, hit us up and we'll consider it with all our many ways of consideration.
Oh yes, our many deep and spiritual ways of consideration. Our theory behind this show was to talk about spiritual topics with kind of like a lighthearted, fun approach. Greg and I both tend to be more lighthearted and fun about these things. And we feel like there's a lot of intensity out there about spirituality.
Yes.
And we thought, why can't it be fun? And it turns out it can. So we figured we would do that.
And we're going to make it fun one way or another.
Exactly. It's going to be fun, whether it wants to be or not.
So the purpose of the show, like you're saying, is to bring spirituality into your lives in so different forms, but always in a fun, lighthearted kind of way.
Exactly.
And there might be a lot of joking, there might be a lot of inappropriateness, but that's all part of it. People need to lighten up. I think that's really our tagline, just be lighten up.
And to lighten up like in a spiritual way.
Well,
Did you do that on purpose?
Yes,
oh my
I
God,
did.
Greg is so clever. To get spiritually lighter and to get like funnier in general.
Right. So for our first show, we figured we would discuss spirituality and what spirituality is and what it means to people. Yep. So since our show is Spirituality Live, what the hell does that mean?
What the hell does it mean? Also, if you're watching and you want to chime in about, whatever your experience is with what you think spirituality is, Greg's like, this is so off script, we should talk about this.
People chiming in.
Feel free to hit us up and just chime on in. That's fine. I like that. To me, I don't know what spirituality is.
Pause.
This has been unscripted. We didn't discuss it ahead of time. We figured it would be better this way because then we would just kind of have the conversation live, thus the name. What do you think spirituality is?
Excellent question, Rhian. I'm glad
you asked.
So spirituality. So I'll tell a quick little story, because when I got onto my spiritual path, whatever that is, I was about 30. I was always interested and open to all things, psychic, spiritual, ghosts, aliens, all kinds of fun stuff. Like I was just open to everything. But I was raised Catholic, and I just knew I was Catholic. I didn't really consider myself spiritual. I didn't really ever question what spirituality was or what it meant or any of this kind of stuff until I turned 30 and was blown wide open and got on what I consider my spiritual path and what a lot of other people do. And if you're asking if you're on your spiritual path or not, you may not be. But as a side note to that, everyone is on their spiritual path whether they know it or not. So I'm actually going to make a correction. Sorry. I'll make a correction. Everyone's on their spiritual path, but there's a point in time where you become conscious of it.
There you go. I was going to say, if you're asking if you're on your spiritual path, that's a sign you are on your spiritual path.
We're going to go with that.
That's the first step to being on it.
Yes.
Is saying, am I on a spiritual path? Am I a spiritual person?
Right. Because if not, you're just in zombie mode.
You're asleep, but that's your spirit saying, do I exist? Am I here yet? Are we doing this? Mm-hmm.
So when it became clear to me that there was this whole spiritual world in front of me that I hadn't consciously grasped and embraced, then that became my spiritual path. And it was very obvious that I was heading down my little rabbit hole and opening myself wide open in so many ways, mind and spirit. And so that began my quote, conscious spiritual life. And to me, in that process, what I considered spirituality was something that transcended religion, something that was a deeper connection and understanding of the true nature of the universe and God and all that fun stuff, but was outside of any set rules of religion. And the other thing that I realized too is, so what I started doing was and I still kind of do this, I started categorizing people and friends as spiritual or non-spiritual. So I was like, oh, my spiritual friends, like I'm hanging out with my spiritual friends this
Cool
weekend.
Kids Club.
But I also learned that some of my old friends, previous friends, not that they're necessarily old, my previous friends before I got on my spiritual path, in many ways are more spiritual than some of the spiritual people I know.
Well, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Don't you feel? I feel like there's a lot of atheists out there that are actually really like behaving in the way that a lot of spiritual people say they want to behave.
Yes.
But it's weird. It's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and it's funny you say that.
Weird that I should say that.
When I was, because coming over, I was like, or actually I think even started this morning, I was like, we should probably have a topic. We don't have a topic. And it hit me like, let's just talk about spirituality because we're Spirituality Live, right?
Exactly.
And part of that was, looking at, okay, well, what is religion? What is spirituality? What is atheism? And there's a lot of atheists out there that, even though they don't believe in a God, that quotes too, they actually live a probably more positive and peaceful life and spiritual life than most of the religious people that are running around praying.
Well, so the question, I guess, is then is spirituality and like morality don't have to coexist. They don't have to be the same thing. I don't think they do.
No, they don't
I
have
think
to be
there's
the
a
same
lot of
thing.
validity to atheism because also if you look at me and I'm a pagan, a lot of pagans don't necessarily have the idea of a God. They have the idea of like the energy.
Right. Spirit.
And well, some people don't even think spirit. Some people think there's just an innate energy to everything, and that is an accurate thing. And that for them, they want to behave a certain way because they want to behave a certain way, not because of the undercurrent of like, what's the purpose of it all or whatever. I don't know what I'm saying.
Well, yeah. Well, no. Well, that can lead into another whole wonderful discussion about what is God, right? Or not God. What is not God?
Well, I don't even like the word God. How do you feel about the word God? Are you into the word God?
I just said that's another whole discussion.
I know, but I was just wondering if you felt like
I'm fine with God.
It's all cool with God.
Well, here's the thing. It's just labels. It's really just labels. And that's why when it comes to religion and spirituality and paganism and all that kind of stuff, it's all just how you're labeling it. And I mean, I believe it's all the same exact thing underneath it all, but I mean, that's also my belief and my opinion. But whether you call it God, whether you call it energy, whether you call it spirit, whether you call it Gaia and you're just stuck to one planet, there's something bigger than us, some kind of energy and consciousness bigger than us that is part of everything. And some people call that God, some people don't. I grew up with the idea of God and I'm fine with it. I am not a huge fan of a lot of specific things about religion and the Catholic Church, but I absolutely believe in that there's an overall consciousness, and I believe that there are angels and other beings and other dimensions. I basically believe everything.
One thing you bring up that's cool is the difference between, hey Jamie, the idea of religion and the idea of spirituality, which is what we're sort of touching on. Religion for me, and I teach the divinity school at Circle of Miracles, so I'm ordaining ministers, and when we teach about religion, it's just like structured spirituality. Right. It's like taking the idea of spirituality, and one thing that we try to teach the students is like there's this common undercurrent with all world religions is all the same thing. It's just different ways of manifesting itself, and that doesn't make it wrong or right, but that they're all the same fundamentally, and that fundamentally what it seems to boil down to is love and connection. And that but the ways that the religions can manifest can be helpful or problematic. Like everything has duality. My whole belief system is based on duality because of the pagan background that I have and because of the way that I like to interact with the world. I'm into like the night and the day and the summer and the winter.
Let's say, what do you mean by duality?
Duality meaning
not everybody knows.
Duality meaning that there are two sides about everything. There's the dark and the light. There is grammar. And so in my perspective, there's everything is both positive and negative if we want to look at it that way, or can be. And our job is to sort of discern and wade through all of that. When for me, spirituality is about finding and interacting with the innate energy in all objects and creatures and beings. Like when I was little, and I would like be really sad if my parents would throw out a piece of furniture because its soul was like sad that it was getting thrown out.
Aww.
I know, but like I still think that's true.
Yeah. Well, I think everything is energy. I mean, science already proved that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everything is energy. I think and again, for me, where spirituality really comes in is it's not only is everything energy, but everything is a conscious energy.
Yeah.
So you know, and I think it's funny too, because for some people, I think it's easier to take a leap of believing that some sort of living entity could have a consciousness. Like, so there's some people that believe trees, you know, could have a living consciousness, but then, you know, you're like, oh, that rock has consciousness too. And they're like, well, how is a rock have consciousness?
Can I tell a
weird
weird side story that relates to that? One time I was asking my
Anything
guys,
goes here, by the way.
I said, my background is I'm a psychic intuitive amongst other things, but one time I asked my guys, I said to them, what if I wanted to have a life that was just meditation? Like, what would I do or who would I be? And they said, you would be a rock or a tree. Isn't that cool? I thought that was so, like, profound.
The rocks are just in constant state of meditation.
Yes. So now when I look at rocks, well, and the planets are having their own life as well. You know, they're all living creatures as well. But now when I look at like a rock or a tree, or like, I'm like, wow, it's like this meditating being. It's like this being on this higher level of consciousness. And you can sometimes feel that. That's why people say go touch a rock or go touch a tree.
Yeah.
Nope. You got to get down.
Tree huggers.
Scoot it.
So, but looping back a little bit to the what is spirituality. And for all you people, I just want to acknowledge this. So we're doing Facebook Live, but we're also going to post it later. So we may not be acknowledging everybody that's posting things on here all the time, but we do see you. So thanks for joining in and thanks for your comments. And if you watch this afterward, feel free to also post comments afterward. So anytime you watch this, if you want to post what you believe spirituality is, what spirituality is to you, please add that in there into the comments. We're happy to have our discussions continue on for eons to come.
For eons and eons. And Kim says, like, crystals with the rocks and the trees. Like, yeah, crystals, I think crystals is going to be a whole bunch of stuff that we're going to talk about. But, yeah, they definitely emanate that energy for sure. I know you just said we're not going to comment on everything people are saying. So this is how this is always going to go. Greg's going to say a thing, and I'm going to just, like, ruin it. But your friend Laura said she doesn't like the idea of God being portrayed as an older white guy hanging out in a cloud somewhere making arbitrary decisions. I really resonate with that. That was why religion was so hard for me all the time. I didn't relate to that God at all.
Well, here's what I'm going to say. All the spiritual people I know also say the same exact thing. So many people have left religion because they're too defined. And I think that's the way of putting it. Religion is too defined in what it is, and it doesn't flow. It doesn't allow itself to evolve and to change.
And putting parameters on it.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest problem. Everything evolves and changes.
Now, for one thing, though, I do want to say something else, though, because, like, there's a lot of times that I have a problem with in the spiritual communities is, like, bashing of people who are not spiritual. My issue with that is that not everybody's here on a life path that is spiritual. Not everybody is, like, drawn to that necessarily. And so those, like, people are still valid people. They're just focused on something else. So some chefs like to follow recipes exactly. And in my worldview, like, that's what a religion is. It's a recipe, and it tells you how to do it. You just do it and get it done. Some chefs like to, like, see a recipe and then do what they want to do with it, or create their own, like, amazing meal out of it, or don't even work with a recipe at all. And to me, that's more like the spiritual people. They're like, let me kind of dip my toe in or look at what you're saying and then modify it and make it my own, to my own tastes, my own needs, to feed my own family. And I don't think one's more right or wrong. I just think that we are more drawn to people who are more on our path and doing what we're doing, and that seeing things a different way. But for some people, that's what they want. They want a religion. They want to be told this is what to do. And they're not at that place where they want something else yet.
Right. Yeah, it was wonderful.
Thanks. I love that.
And the one thing, this is going to be such a fun dynamic because we're both just awesome people. We are. But there's, and through the show, I think we'll see more of where we differ and where you have, like, certain views and ideas, Miss Pagan over here. And, but at the same time, though, the reason we have such an awesome dynamic is because we're both very accepting, open people. The show isn't about judging anything. If it's anything, it's about accepting everything.
Yeah.
And helping everyone out there to learn to accept and understand things. And I'm sure I've been this way my whole life, but especially when I got onto my spiritual path and started opening up into all the spiritual stuff, for me it was very clear that there's so much information, there's so much coming on out there, and there's so much like craziness, like stuff that really sounds insane and sci-fi and all this kind of stuff, and we don't know the truth. No one on earth knows the truth, because if you're on earth, there's some kind of filter being in a human body. So people think they know the truth, and people might be very close to the truth, and people might be channeling truth, but there's still going to be a little bit of a filter through it. And what it all comes down to is regardless of how true anything is, it's whatever is true for you, because you are on your own path. We are all on our own path. So whatever spirituality is to you, religion is to you, God is to you, anything is to you, that's for you. And that definition may change and probably will change throughout the course of your lifetime.
Okay.
Comments?
I like it. I think sometimes I know the truth. I think sometimes we all think we know our own truth, though.
Right. But that's different, though. That's your own truth.
Well, and for $9.99, you can hit me up. I'll tell you the truth.
So we all have our own truths, but it doesn't mean that your truth isn't shared with like a million other people, and for me, evolution is about getting to the point where we are in such a unison of consciousness that we all just know the truth collectively.
That's interesting, because there's probably a collective idea of truth for whatever's happening in the world at that time, and those of us who are sort of tapping into the collective unconscious are feeling what that might be. But like you said, it always shifts. Yeah. So it's heavily like, have you ever been meditating and you're like meditating, and you're like, oh my God, I'm meditating, and then now you're not meditating anymore, and you realized you were meditating. It's kind of like that.
Thinking about it, it pulls you out of it.
The second you think, oh my God, I'm meditating, you're no longer meditating. So it's kind of like that. It's kind of like the second you're like, oh, I figured it out. Nope. Yeah. Something's going to change because you think you figured it out.
Yeah.
Good luck to you.
I will point out this comment, though. I like this. Scott Kleinman said that he does not let religion interfere with his relationship with God, which is so perfectly put, because regardless of where you are in terms of religion, with your own religion or the religion you were brought up in, all that kind of stuff, it is still your own decision to decide how you're going to allow what you were taught and the religion that you're part of to affect you and your relationship with God or whatever, being, energy you want to connect with.
So is your family still Catholic?
Yeah.
What do they think about all your hippie woo stuff?
That's a long story. It's a long story. It's ironic. My mom's very accepting, so I think she's fine with everything.
Oh, that's good.
My brother, ironically, is still on the fence with a lot of this kind of stuff, especially when you get like too far out there with stuff. But yet he's on the Awaken board, so he completely supports me and what I'm doing, even though he doesn't always believe in it, which in itself is just a very beautiful notion.
That is beautiful.
That he would stick to it to support me, even if he thinks like half of it's a little crazy. And my dad passed away like 8 or 9 years ago now, and that was the toughest thing, because he was brought up very Catholic. He was very much about Catholicism and all that stuff. And when I started getting into all my spirituality, he thought I was crazy. And the funny thing is, he called it voodoo and witchcraft, right? And he thought he was insulting it, and really it's a compliment.
It is a compliment. Catholicism is the closest to witchcraft of all the organized religions.
Well, here's the interesting thing. So when I got on my path, like there was kind of like a little battle going on, and it was at the same time where my dad was having a lot of heart issues and all that stuff, and so then my brother was yelling at me that I'm gonna make it worse, and give him a heart attack because of everything I was doing, because it was right at the same time. It was so coincidental that as I was getting deeper into my spiritual path, my dad was departing from this world slowly, his heart was failing.
Wow.
So it was all coinciding at the same time. And he was having a hard time with me being on the spiritual path and turning away from Catholicism and all this kind of stuff. And I kept trying to get him to understand that it didn't mean that I was leaving God or religion or Jesus or anything like that. And that's another big thing. So obviously Jesus is often connected to Catholicism and Christianity, but
hopefully so. It is named for him.
It is. But it doesn't mean that because you're not Catholic or you left Christianity, it doesn't mean that you don't still have a relationship with Christ and with Jesus. And that's another thing, and it goes back to what is spirituality. So there's a lot of people out there that have chosen to step away from religion, which I completely understand.
Yeah.
But typically, now there are some people where I feel how they've left religion because they feel it doesn't work for them and they don't know where to go. They haven't really found spirituality yet. And then there's the people that have left it because they got on more of a spiritual path. And I just use these, everything's just terms, labels. I just use these terms because it works for me, spiritual path and spirituality and all that kind of stuff. So, and again, it goes back to, for me, spirituality is about that connection with the divine, however it is. Mm-hmm. And your spiritual path is about walking the path to increase that connection to the divine.
Okay. For me, a spiritual path is like, what shit is going to come my way that I have to overcome and still stay right with myself? That's a spiritual path. We use the word path in witchcraft as well. And on my Instagram, I like to say, like, the path unfolds as you walk it. So what I mean by that is, like, we don't know what's going to come, but all we can do is be in our zone and be in our space and always be right with ourselves as we proceed forward. That's sort of what spirituality, I guess, is about for me too.
Yeah.
Like, knowing how do I want to be despite whatever disasters may befall me on my journey.
Right. And then for me, the next step beyond that is, so there's and I think really this is the difference between, and I'll quote the Matrix, knowing the path and walking the path.
I can.
So spirituality, I have all these concepts now. I've read all these books, and had all these experiences. So I have all these ideas of what spirituality is and what is really happening in the world and what God really is and energy is and all this kind of stuff and what's real, not real. Like, I have all these new ideas and concepts. And there's so many, I can see very clearly how I want to live my life and how humanity can live its life in total peace. But that's just in my mind. That, and then there's walking the path. There's being it, that idea and that concept every moment of your life. So, and a lot of spiritual people are like this, where they can run around preaching about all the things they've learned and about how to be a good human and be a good spiritual person and all this kind of stuff. But are they really walking the path? And even myself, and sometimes I feel hypocritical because, again, there's all these concepts that I know and I've learned, but I'm not living them in every moment, but I do my best. And that's all we can ever do is just do our best.
Yeah, be gentle with yourself if you're not.
Yeah.
For me, the path only exists inside of me, though. Like, there is no path out there. That's my difference.
Path is everywhere.
The path is only within myself, because if I am trying to tell anybody else or create any external experience that's in alignment with what I think should happen, then I'm not actually doing a good job. This is where maybe we don't agree.
Good job.
I'm not actually being in my own integrity. And so my path has to just be within me, and I have to have detachment from what others are doing and how it maybe or does not influence what I'm doing, because I can only control myself.
True.
No matter how much I want to control others.
All very true. All very true. I do not disagree with
I don't even have control over these cats, as we've seen.
Very true. Rhian has no control over any other being.
I don't. I try. It doesn't mean I don't.
But it's not. But that's different, though. That's different. I totally agree with everything you said. But it's not. It's not about control. I just think that you can have shared paths. Because we're all living here together. So you can't separate it. You can't separate anything that's happening here. So your path does involve other people.
It's the duality.
It doesn't. But all of our paths, everything you do affects the entire world. It affects it. So your path does affect other people's paths, but it's not control.
And the second I set out to affect the entire world, I'm not being right with myself. It's the duality. I have to affect only myself, and then what I do can affect the entire world. But if I'm coming from an inauthentic place and I'm just trying to affect the external world without being right with myself, then it's an ineffective, inaccurate situation.
It's true.
That's my thought. It's the duality, as we've just proven me right. I said all duality. Watch as I completely make everything go back to me.
It's true. It's true. I mean, and we've heard it a million times. Change starts within. Be the change. Be the change. So you want to change the world, start with changing yourself. But I do disagree. I think you can affect other people as well.
I mean, I think, yeah, okay, of course we can affect other people, but like, if I set out to affect other people, I feel like I'm not being in my integrity. That seems real messed up to me.
Why can't you be in alignment with your integrity and affect other people?
Because why am I trying to affect other people? It comes back to a why, and like an alignment question. It's like, what's my intention? What's my purpose? Is there something external to me that's like feeding me? In which case, that sounds like ego or something like that, and that's like not.
Interesting. So, what is spirituality? I feel like we're talking through this point, but it's fine. It's fine. Agree to disagree.
I think that's going to happen a lot. I'm excited for that. I love to disagree.
But anyway, it's all good.
Especially, I love to disagree with you.
Oh, that's so sweet. It's very sweet. It's very sweet.
I think it's okay to disagree because I think in dialogue, and this is actually, we knew this was going to happen, because when we started talking about how we were going to do this, we were like, won't it be interesting when we're dialoguing and no one knows what the other one's going to say? And then that's what's going on. So I think it's cute. I think it's cute.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. It's all good.
So funny.
It's all good. So,
Sarah, I know, right?
Yeah. Well, no, what I was going to say, so the length of these, because it's been just about a half hour, we kind of figured we'd be on around half hour, 45 minutes or something like that. Mm-hmm. And same thing, we don't have any set plan, and we're not saying that this show is a certain length of time. Sometimes it might be a half hour, sometimes it might be an hour. It just really depends. Depends where the conversation is going and where we're going with it and when we feel that we've completed it.
And I think we like to hear feedback from you and like what kinds of things do you want to have be discussed and do you want to chime in? Yes. It's a living show, meaning it's like alive, meaning it's fluid. It's live and it's alive, right? And so it's evolving. So if you're like, no, we want more like interaction with whoever's tuning in, that's cool. If you want more specific topics, or I don't know.
Yeah, especially topics. Some of the topics, well, yeah. So we'll talk about that real quick.
I have a list.
Yeah.
I don't have it with me.
I was like, we did start making a list before, but there are some specific topics that we want to tackle: near-death experience, angels, aliens, witchcraft, right? Witchcraft over here. Paganism, right? Crystals, all that kind of stuff. So we have lots of ideas. If there's some specific things that you want to learn more about or hear about, let us know. And what we're going to do as far as the guests go, we might bring in guests that know a little bit more about a certain topic. So if we're talking about NDE, near-death experience, we might try to find somebody that's had a near-death experience so they can talk about that. On the other hand, we might also sometimes just bring in a guest and not so they can talk about themselves and their experiences, just for them to join the discussion on whatever topic we happen to throw out.
Yeah, that was one thing we thought was interesting. So please, if you have cool people that you think would be good to come chat with us, I don't know where we're gonna seat them, just to be clear. Like
it's gonna be a very cozy show.
If you have cool people that you think would contribute nicely, please let us know. However, lots of times people do podcast circuits or like stuff like this because they're promoting something. That's cool, like whatever. But we don't necessarily just want to talk about whatever they're proficient in. Because one thing we like to do is get points of views from people who are used to talking about one thing, but we want to hear their perspectives on other things as well.
Right.
Because and your friend is asking, will the show be about everything or just spirituality? I think we're focusing on just spiritual-based topics.
It is called Spirituality Live.
Although, plot twist, maybe on April Fool's Day we'll talk about something else.
Well, I was going to say everything is spirituality.
Oh, nice.
So we come from what we consider ourselves spiritual people and come from like a spiritual standpoint and mentality, which really just means a positive, loving view of the world and life. Okay. Right?
Yeah. That's great. Write it down.
I don't want to put words in her mouth. No. But so if you have a certain topic that you want us to address and talk about, if we're feeling it, we will, and we'll totally come to that topic with our spiritual standpoint and positive views. You know, so we're not going to, and this is the thing, this is us. We're not going to say that there's an absolute no to something, and we're not going to say there's an absolute yes to something.
It could be fun. We could be like, throw us out a topic and we'll make it spiritual somehow.
Oh, throwing out the challenges. The gauntlet is down.
It can happen. We can do it. All right, cool.
Cool.
So we're really grateful for those of you who've tuned in.
Yeah, thanks for watching.
If you feel inclined, please share the video when it's shareable. And we're going to put it up on YouTube. Yeah. And somehow, I'm not technological. Somehow we're taking this audio and putting it onto a podcast.
Oh,
so if you like to listen, is this the first one seeing this? No. When will we air, Greg?
So we're going to do this, our live show, 11 a.m. Tuesday, the first Tuesday and the third Tuesday of each month. And because we are not rigid people, that might occasionally not happen if there's a vacation or something or whatever.
Yeah,
you know.
it's like Christmas.
But that's our plan, and so we'll do our best to let everybody know what the next show is coming up. If we actually have a topic for an upcoming show, we'll post that topic. Sometimes it might be a topic thrown out that day.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
it's all about going with the flow, and I don't always like making set plans.
I am the same exact way.
So-
That's one reason this works out
Right.
pretty well.
Right. So you know, the loose schedules, first and third Tuesday, we're gonna try to stick to that, 11 a.m. live on Facebook, and then we're gonna save it. I'm gonna post it. So this is live on my personal page, Very Camp Easy.
And on mine over at Rhian Greg.
Right. And then we're gonna save the video, and we'll also repost it. I will repost it on Awaken. And for those of you, if you don't know who I am and what I do, we need to remember to actually plug ourselves.
We should talk
Right?
about
We should totally plug ourselves.
it.
So.
Does not exist.
I run Awaken Center for Human Evolution. We have a center in Warrington. So these videos are also going to be posted to the Awaken page, and I'm going to post them to the Awaken YouTube page. And we'll probably also put links on like Twitter and Instagram, and just we're going to put it out there as many different ways as we can.
It'll exist
Yeah.
somehow.
It'll be out there in every form. And like you said, also because some people just want to listen to the podcast and not necessarily watch the video. So we can extract the audio and turn it into a podcast as well.
Absolutely, we can.
All that fun stuff.
Yep, and I am a practicing psychic intuitive and an interfaith minister and a practicing witch. So yay.
A lot of stuff going on.
A lot of stuff going on. All right, thank you for watching. Please hit us up with feedback if you have any, and we will see you in two Tuesdays from now.
All right.
Mwah.
Have an awesome week.
Have a nice week. It never ends when I click end. Do you have that?